So we've got to be able to get that resolved. That's a serious issue that only Congress can resolve, but we've got to be able to implement. We need the White House to also make the request on it. One last thing I'll just ask for the record, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, on this. DHS Ombudsman for Citizenship and Immigration Services found this statement: the parole programs that are currently being used at our southern border that are allowing more people to come in, the parole programs require diverting funding and employee resources within USCIS from other immigration programs. We've experienced this in our office. It's become harder for legal immigration. And the Ombudsman is saying it's because some of these resources are being funneled to the border processing parole there. Love to have a statement back from your office in writing on if that's true, what's being done to be able to change it. If it's not true, why is that not true?
Thank you, Senator Langford, and I appreciate trying to stay on that timeline. I appreciate that. For those of you who weren't here, we have our colleagues are all trying to. Everybody wants to ask questions. Everybody is scheduling tightly, so if you try to stay to your time, I would appreciate that. Senator Romney, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, in the last 3 1/3 years, during your term, there have been more illegal aliens released into the country than under the 4 prior presidents combined. I know there may be some in the country that applaud that, but I believe that, frankly, if President Biden is to be turned out of office, it will be largely because of that failure on your part and his part as the person who's responsible for policy. I believe, and I think the great majority of the American people believe, and that reason why I think it's such a political bomb for the president, that this is an extraordinary crisis and failure. Do you believe that the numbers that you saw that Senator Johnson put up, the huge increase in the number of illegal aliens being released into the country, that is a crisis and a terrible problem?
I have, Senator.
That's a yes or no.
Senator, I have said previously that it is a crisis, and it is something that we work to address every single day.
Good, thank you. Let me turn. The House, I believe, House of Representatives, took action to underscore the extent of this crisis. And the Democrats decided they didn't want to spend more time talking about that. But I'm going to ask you a couple questions. They're not intended to be hostile, but the House said that you lied when you said to the House in a hearing that the border was secure. Why did you say the border was secure? Was that a lie? What do you mean by that?
Senator Romney, allow me to assure you that I have honored the oath of office that I have taken more than 5 times in my 22+ years of federal service.
Let me go back to the question. That's as accurate as it is irrelevant, which is, my question is, you said that the border was secure. What did you mean when you said the border was secure? Is that not a lie?
Senator, you've asked me now if that is a lie, and I have assured you that I have honored the oath of office that I have taken.
In what way was it not a lie then?
Senator, with the resources and authorities that we have, it is as secure as it can be.
Thank you. Second question. The law states, and the House correctly noted, that encounters at the border and people seeking parole and so forth should be detained, and yet you release them. Why did you release them?
Senator, we release individuals into immigration enforcement proceedings when our detention capacity cannot meet them in detention, and they do not pose a threat to public safety or national security based upon the screening and vetting that we perform at the border.
Clearly that screening and vetting was insufficient given the number of murders and other crimes committed by a number of those people so released. But is there a law when the detention facility is full? I understand why you say I can't put them in detention, which the law requires, if there's no more detention space. But does the law indicate what you then do? Because under President Trump, they were sent back to Mexico, as I understand it, and under your administration, they were released into the country. Am I wrong in that assessment?
Yes, you are, Senator, respectfully.
You want to explain in what way?
Of course, because I believe, and I want to be accurate in the data that I provide to you, and so I will verify subsequent to this hearing. Senator, I believe that a total of approximately 70,000 people were processed through the Remain in Mexico policy, and the balance were either detained or placed into immigration enforcement proceedings on a non-detained docket with a notice to appear. That is something that has been characteristic of our broken immigration system.
Do you have any sense of the proportion? How many were sent back to Mexico and how many were released into the country?
I would be pleased to provide that to you subsequently, Senator.
That would be helpful. The law also, and the House correctly noted, that asylum seekers should be evaluated individually, not released en bloc, and yet they were released en bloc. Why is that?
Senator, I don't know to what the House was referring, because we make individualized asylum determinations. Our asylum officers are trained to do so based upon the facts presented to them in each case.
Well, I would refer you to the articles of impeachment, which I presume you've had the chance to read. Is that right?
Actually, I have not read the articles of impeachment.
I probably want to do that because it alleges that you did not follow the law of the United States of America, and either you or your legal counsel ought to read that and make sure that you are following the law of the United States of America. But it indicates that individuals are to be evaluated individually and not let go or not released into the country en bloc, and yet it says that you did release en bloc large numbers of individuals into the country that should have been individually evaluated. Is that the case or not the case?
That is not the case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've used my time.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Senator Romney, a great deal, and your colleagues appreciate it. Senator Scott, recognized for your questions.
Secretary Mayorkas, you're the first cabinet official to be impeached in our country's history. I think it's a sad first for our nation. Not because this wasn't warranted, but because it was completely warranted by your catastrophic failure that has created a wide open border. I personally fully support what the House did. I think I've been honest with you that I view your job, how I view your job performance. I don't believe not just once, but multiple times you lied under oath that the border was secure. It's not. I think that's clearly a lie. And it's a lie that our nation is reeling for the consequences of your failures. I've talked to a lot of people at CBP, people at ICE, and they're doing the best they can. But your horrific policies make their jobs impossible, and they've been clear with me about that. Here's what I talk to people about you, they don't get it. They say, does he care about the thousands of Americans who have died from drug overdoses because of your lawless policies? Does he care about the Americans who have been killed and viciously raped by illegal aliens that you and President Biden have invited to this country? They say, do you care about the devastation that could happen at the hands of the hundreds of terrorists that have been let into our country? Does he care that even the FBI director is concerned about the terrorists you and President Biden have allowed into America? At my state, they're furious. They don't think you care at all.
None of you believe.
Just about everybody I talk to believes that America is a way more dangerous place because you have allowed criminals, drugs, terrorists, and other dangerous people into our communities. Just this week, the House Select Committee on the CCP released a damning report on the fentanyl you've let pour into America through the southern border. Here's how the AP reported on the committee's report. The article said, quote, the Chinese government not only subsidizes the manufacture of precursor chemicals, but the report says it is a thwarted investigation until illicit manufacturers by warning the targets of investigation, and U.S. law enforcement has sent a formal request for assistance. Investigators said multiple current and former federal agents have described the notification of targets, leading those targets to revamp operation and make it harder to detect their activity. I can't imagine if I was sitting in your position, I'd like to hear this. But the government of Communist China seems to know that because of your policies and wide open border, you and President Biden have created that they get to do whatever they want. Now, what we know is Communist China wants to destroy the United States. They want to murder thousands of Americans with fentanyl. Communist China is poisoning our nation, taking the lives of more than 70,000 Americans each and every year. I assume you know this. I personally can't say anything that shows that you care about it. There are real consequences to your failure to secure the border, and every victim's got a name. Unfortunately, real Americans are being killed, families are being torn apart by vicious crimes and deadly drugs because we have a wide open border, and we do. Last time on the Senate floor, I spoke about one of the Americans who was murdered by Communist China's fentanyl that the cartels are pushing to our country every day. Her name's Ashley Dunn. Ashley's mother said that Ashley was murdered by your failure to stop fentanyl from pouring into the United States. Other innocent Americans like Blake and Riley are also paying the ultimate price for your failures. As we all know, Lakeland was brutally murdered, and an illegal alien has been charged with that heinous crime. Your agency just confirmed that this monster was in the U.S. after being paroled by DHS. Not for humanitarian reasons, but because you claimed you didn't have detention capacity. That's not how the law is supposed to work. What you did is against the law, and if you followed the law, Lakeland Riley would still be alive. If you look at the chart, it seems like there's been over 10 million people have illegally crossed, 6 million have allowed to stay here, and you've rolled out the red carpet for them. There have been sexual assaults and murders committed by illegal aliens all over the country. Even in Florida, where just recently a young man was killed. The man charged with his death is an illegal alien. So let me go back to what I said in the beginning. The Republican majority in the House is now, they voted to impeach you for violating your oath of office. Whether you believe that was right or wrong, that happened. You should then have a trial to make your case. But unlike what happened in 2019 when Democrats alone voted to impeach the president and Republicans controlled the Senate, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer decided to deny you the ability to defend yourself in trial. It seems to me that Schumer didn't want to let you defend yourself in trial for one of a couple of reasons. He's either acting out of pure political interest to protect his incumbent members who don't want to talk about your record, and the wide open border you have created, and all the crime, drugs, and illegal immigration it's allowing, or he's terrified of the trial exposing your failure to a degree that acquittal would be extremely painful for Democrats to explain to the American public. Here's what I don't understand. Just a few weeks ago, Senate Democrats all voted against the bill to stop illegal aliens from getting on a commercial flight with no verifiable ID. This is shocking considering that a recent report identified that in 2023 alone, you approved the transit of 320,000 inadmissible illegal aliens to 43 U.S. airports, pre-approved by DHS through the CBP-1 app, many of them going through my home state of Florida on commercial flights. Democrats voted against deporting illegal aliens who hurt police, like the violent attack on uniformed police officers in New York City by a group of illegal migrants, some of whom with known gang affiliations who unlawfully entered the country under your watch. And Democrats voted against the Lakeland Riley Act, which simply requires ICE to take illegal aliens who commit crimes into custody before tragedies strike. So it seems to me that Democrats have no problem voting to keep this border crisis going, and it's a crisis, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, and blocking every attempt that Republicans make to stop the crime and secure the border. But when it comes to you, they shut everything down and don't allow you to speak. You seem like a smart guy. You're a former prosecutor. Sure, you know how to handle yourself and defend your actions. I'm surprised you didn't read what they said about you.